Alright, Jameson here talking to you about Thanos and why you should be excited about him. So there are a few major differences between the cinematic universe and the comics. So I'm going to start off covering the basics of the comic book origin of Thanos and then kind of discuss some of the differences in the cinematic universe. The first appearance of Thanos was in 1973 in issue number 55 of Iron Man. Thanos was created by Jim Starlin, who came up with the idea during a psychology class. He was also inspired by Jack Kirby's work at DC with the New Gods series. Originally, Thanos was based on Metron, the New God, but he was later told that if he was going to rip off some of the New Gods from DC, he should at least take the really good one, Darkseid. So after being told that, he decided to beef up Thanos, making him bulkier and resemble more like Darkseid. Now we have to discuss a few different things to understand the origin of Thanos in the comics. First, there's the Celestials, which are essentially the giant space gods of the Marvel Universe. Now we have seen a couple Celestials in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The first Celestial that we came across was actually just a Celestial's severed head, which is called Nowhere. This is where the Guardians of the Galaxy travel to trade the Collector the Power Orb, which falls through after Ronan the Accuser comes and finds them. While the Guardians are with the Collector, he tells them the origin of the Infinity Stones. While showing some of the flashbacks and things of the stones being used, we see a giant space robot creature using the power gem. Now this is actually a Celestial. And the third and most recent Celestial that we know of is Ego, which we find out is Peter's dad, which makes Peter himself half Celestial. Now in the comics, the Celestials, which were the original creatures of the universe, created a race called the Eternals. Now the Eternals were basically perfected humans. They were seen as the perfect race and species. This is actually where Thanos comes from. He was born from Eternals. However, Thanos was born with something called the deviant trait. Now this deviant trait is basically a mutation that affects the Eternals. Kind of like how the X-Men are mutated from regular humans. Because of this mutation that Thanos was born with, he appeared purple and scarred. This separated him from the other Eternals, which were perfect. But because of this deviant trait that he was born with extra abilities and powers on top of that the Eternals already had. Thanos is incredibly powerful. He has super strength, super endurance, reflex, agility, and on top of all that, he's nearly indestructible. Because of his deviant trait, his skin is nigh invulnerable. Actually, in the comic, Thanos actually survived going through a black hole. If that doesn't give you a general idea of how strong he is, then I don't know what will. He was also able to fight off Hulk and Drax easily just by swatting them to the side like nothing. In addition to Thanos' strength, endurance, and agility, he's also telepathic and highly intelligent. He's also able to manipulate energy around him, being able to absorb it and alter it to his will. In some comic variations, he's also a master of the mystic arts, which is basically what Doctor Strange is. Now Thanos grew up on Titan, which is a moon of Saturn. And as he grew up, Thanos became more aware of his deviant mutation. This caused him to rebel against the Eternals and stand for things completely different from what they stood for. Thanos became obsessed with nihilism and death. In the comics, he actually wandered off while he was thinking about these things and stumbled across the physical embodiment of death. Now, this is kind of strange, but think of it more as the Grim Reaper. So essentially, Thanos falls in love with Mistress Death. So, to appease her, he decides he's going to wipe out everyone on Titan, his whole family. Thanos begins building a weapon to destroy all of the Eternals, but he is found by his father and exiled from the planet. Thanos returns later and destroys everyone on the planet. The only exception were his father and brother, who were not present at the time that the planet was wiped out. After doing this, Thanos became known as the Mad Titan. Thanos became more and more obsessed with the concept of death and destruction. This eventually led him to seeking out the Infinity Gauntlet and its stones. When he acquired these stones with the gauntlet, he was able to wipe out half of all life in the universe with a simple snap of his fingers. I'll make a video about the Infinity Gauntlet later on that goes into more details about that. Now, some differences with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. While we haven't seen Mistress Death or a Grim Reaper type creature in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we have seen someone who is strongly associated with death. In Thor Ragnarok, we have Helya, who describes herself as the goddess of death. Now, it's very possible that Thanos could become allied with Helya later on. Whether Marvel decides to go down this path or not is somewhat irrelevant, because Thanos on his own is an incredibly powerful villain. But the thought that this could happen is intriguing at the very least, I would say. Another thing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is we've not experienced any Eternals. Now, we've seen the Sovereign, but that is a whole different thing. While the Sovereign and Aisha, who's apparently creating Adam Warlock, are nearly perfect beings, they are more related to the Enclave in the comics than they are related to the Eternals. Because of this, I would think that perhaps Thanos may be considered himself to be a Celestial, or perhaps a Celestial hybrid, such as Star-Lord. Though with Thanos, if he was a Celestial hybrid or a sub-race of Celestial, maybe even just a deviant Celestial, I would think that Thanos in some way, shape, or form is related to Celestials. This would immediately give him a strong power floor that people understand. We also have a little bit of precedence with Ego being a Celestial. It's possible that Thanos may just be a deviant of a very powerful race of alien, which we may know nothing of yet. While Thanos' heritage in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is mysterious, it's very possible that he may be related in some way to Celestials. Now, how that relation actually turns out is up for debate. Thanos is a very powerful being in and of himself, and the Avengers may struggle to defeat him just as he is normally. If he actually assembles the entire Infinity Gauntlet, he's basically unbeatable. Trickery seems to be the only way to stop someone who actually controls the full power and understanding of the Infinity Gauntlet. It's possible in the cinematic universe that Thanos may not acquire all 6 Infinity Stones, that the Avengers may actually use some of the Infinity Stones against him to trick him into somehow letting down his guard and removing the gauntlet from him without him detecting. Now, we have seen in the trailer of Infinity War that he has at least 2 of the Infinity Stones already, with possibly a 3rd being taken from Vision. While it's hard to predict what may happen in Avengers Infinity War, it's obvious that Thanos will be the biggest and baddest and strongest villain that the Avengers have fought against. And that comes after they've had a little bit of unrest during Captain America Civil War. It's very possible that in the first Avengers Infinity War Part 1, that the Avengers could try to fight Thanos and just be completely destroyed by him. Because of the defeat, they may have to recruit a few additional people, such as Captain Marvel, to help them fight. While the Avengers are strong together, Thanos is no joke. And Thanos is also not alone. We know that Thanos is also bringing the Black Order with him, and I'll go into that in another video as well. I hope you learned a little bit about Thanos, and I hope you're excited to see him in the new Avengers Infinity War Part 1 film coming in May. If you enjoyed the video, please like it and share it with your friends. If you'd like to subscribe, please click here. If you'd like to watch another video, please click here. Thank you.